Hello world, sorry I'm a bit of a mess here, but never mind. And light's bad, but never mind. Okay, I was asked for my thoughts on the Apple keynote thing. So here they are. The two main things that happened at the Apple keynote were obviously the launch of the iPhone 6 and the iPhone 6 Plus, and the Apple Watch. Okay, right, well, to be honest, this was actually quite an exciting keynote, really, as far as Apple go, launching two new products. I'd like to say groundbreaking products. I'm not entirely sure. It depends how it works. Um, and yeah, how things pan out, I suppose. And yeah, what your needs are, really. Okay, so starting off with the iPhone 6. The new things to add to the iPhone 6 were two larger screens and higher definition, higher resolution screens than previously available. Now I've got an iPhone 5 here on charge. Voila. Okay. Um, and to be honest, now the iPhone 5, and in fact, really, I suppose this thing's blighted most iPhones, really. Whether or not it's the same on other phones, I don't really know. But the thing that's blighted my iPhone experience, really, is the close proximity of some of the keys together. That and not being able to type a text message, realise you've missed a word out 3 lines ago, and being able to just tap in the right place and put your word in, that can be very hit and miss. But quite often when I want to type an M, I go for the delete button instead. Okay, so hopefully having those bigger screens might mean that the keyboard is better placed for my clumsy thumbs and fingers, and yeah, hopefully that'll sort that out a little bit. Yeah, it would be nice for Apple to have some way of navigating around what you've just typed, so that, you know, like arrow things or something, so that you could actually get to where you wanted to in a message and edit it properly. But I don't see that happening sometime soon. Okay, I don't know what the experience is like on other phones. Before I got an iPhone 3G, years and years and years ago now, I had this Nokia thing, which was like a Nokia Club Boot, running the Symbian, is it Symbian or Symbian operating system? And yeah, trying to type on that was a truly awful experience, as well as constantly being asked thousands of questions every time you try to do something like make a phone call. Do you really want to make this phone call? Are you sure? Do you want a video call? Do you want a this call? Oh, for goodness sake, do you know what I mean? And yeah, it was just too many buttons to press, and yeah, just to do something very simple, you don't really want the nth degree of interrogation before you do it. Okay. The Nokia came with one of those little pen things as well, which was barely any better. Okay, so I quickly tired of that, and for a little while I had two contracts because I got an iPhone 3G from Orange, and then just patiently bided my time a little bit until my other contract ran out with the Nokia phone. So yeah, that's a little bit of history then, and that's what I hope will have improved with the bigger screens on the iPhone. Okay, I don't want to be an Apple fanboy and say that, you know, everything is fabulous, even if I have no intention of using it. Okay, I don't really play games. I'm a Sudoku addict, so basically, I just have a finger art Sudoku, and whenever I get itchy fingers, I reach for my Sudoku and start playing that. But yeah, so really, in most other respects, for me personally, the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus don't really represent huge leaps and bounds. Okay. Yes, it has got the health app on it. The health app, I'm reliably informed, will tell me when I'm standing up, which is quite nice to know, just in case I was never sure. No, it might be interesting to use that health app actually, just to see what I do, because hopefully those of you that will be that are long-time followers of me will notice that my weight's gone up and down and up and down, and at the moment I'm in a slightly down period. Still got a bit of a tummy, so maybe maybe the health app might be something at least to see what I'm actually doing, and then you know what could you do? Well, I know what I could do actually. I could get a bike and ride it to work, or go jogging or something like that. But yeah, it's having the motivation and try not to feel like a complete idiot while I'm doing it, because I don't feel very confident in physical fitness and stuff like that. Okay. So yeah, what else do I need to say about the iPhone? Battery life. Now, Apple made wonderful claims about battery life. I have to say I don't really get good battery life from my iPhone. It went down to not even lasting a day without needing recharging. I think you can actually try and offset that just a little bit by allowing the thing to run down completely, so it switches itself off, and then charging it up fully, which I did, and the battery life is slightly better. But I hope that the iPhone 6's battery life claims prove to be a little bit more realistic in terms of what you can get from your iPhone. I'll talk more about battery life later when we come onto the watch. So having said that, all of that though, yeah. Now what are we talking about now? Screen sizes again. Now, let's have a look at an iPad. Now, an iPad is 9 point something inches, and an iPad mini, I do have an iPad mini. It's not one of the new ones. It's about just over a year old now. It's about 7.9 inches, I think, for your screen. And it's very comfortable to use. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's lovely to use. I sit and read it on the train. Again, my iPad experience is really limited to a tiny bit of internet browsing. I've only got a Wi-Fi one, not a 3G one. So internet browsing tends to be either on my Mac, or I've got my old MacBook laptop. But I do read an awful lot, and I read on the train to work. Yeah, it's very comfortable, very nice to read on the train. It's a lovely size. Now, the iPhone Plus is over 5 inches, 5.5 inches big, I think. Look at a real fanboy to find out the exact sizes, but I think it's 5.5 inches big. That's too big to fit in a pocket for a phone, I think. Especially with all the other gubbins that I carry around with me anyway. Is it a phone, or is it a quick and dirty iPad? I think it's probably more the latter. I think that anybody that is in the market for an iPad and a phone could actually do do quite well just by having an iPhone 6 Plus. Okay. The actual basic iPhone 6 with the 4.7 inch screen seems to be a compromise between the diddly little screen on an iPhone and and just being able to carry it around. That's what I mean, isn't it? Yeah. So it's a compromise then between having a decent sized screen and being able to carry the thing around. Yeah, what else did I want to say about the iPhone? Deals, people. Okay. Now, I have actually being a bit extravagant again. I've got my iPhone 5. It's on a contract. The contract has got some time to run out on it. But I'm with EE. Okay, now EE used to be Orange. Orange did a merger with T-Mobile, and then somewhere along the line, I think EE is essentially T-Mobile, and the when EE took over, I found that the whole experience of owning a mobile phone plummeted. I have to say, okay. I live in a basement, so when I was with Orange, the cellular signal was actually very poor where I moved to, but I could go out into town and actually get some signal, okay, and even some 3G, all right. And EE don't really seem to have moved on from there. In fact, if anything, the signal is actually worse. I can walk to different areas of my house and completely lose it. Okay. Now, given that I've got a very small place to live at the moment, okay, walking to my kitchen is literally about 6 steps away, and I can lose it from in here to the kitchen. And it's a bit atrocious, really. Okay, 3G is very poor where I live, and where I work, 3G is verging on non-existent. Okay, if I go to London or to Cardiff or to Reading or anywhere like that, then I suddenly find that I've got 4G. Okay, now a friend of mine who I work with, okay, given that I'm barely lucky to get GPRS where I work, where he was standing in a field with me where I work, and he was getting 4G and I was getting absolutely diddly squat nothing. Okay, so he was on O2 whereas I was on EE. Okay, and so what I have done is ordered myself a basic iPhone 6 with O2, because their signal is a lot better, and I checked it out as well. Okay, also in my area, Vodafone are also quite good as well. Okay, trying to speak to a human being at EE about signal problems and everything else just proves to be totally worthless. You can't get anybody there technical enough to tell you anything other than 4G is coming soon. Okay, and that is literally the word that they use, soon. Okay, I asked on the phone, I got soon. I asked in the local shop on the high street, and I got soon. Okay, so doesn't really seem like EE really want my custom at any rate, so I'm going to move from there. As soon as my contracts run down, I'm not going to renew it. Okay, and as I say, I've already pre-ordered an iPhone 6. Now, if you pre-order your iPhone from Apple's website, then you pay for the whole thing, and then you can get like pay-as-you-go kind of cards and things like that to use in it. They do a sort of a starter thing where for £15 you can either get an O2 or I think it's a 3 SIM card. The amount of data that you get to use on there is 2 gigabytes, which doesn't seem particularly generous, it has to be said. Okay, whereas if you go on a contract, which I have done, I'm getting 20 gigabytes of data, free unlimited minutes on calls and unlimited texts. Yes, it's quite expensive, especially if you add in phone insurance, which I think you'd be silly not to. But yeah, hopefully I'll get better coverage, and you know, I would strongly recommend people not to use EE, just because I find that they're rude They're not particularly helpful. It's very difficult trying to get someone. When I got my iPhone 5, it arrived in lots of tiny little bits. I had to update the iOS myself. And really, there's not an Apple experience. An Apple experience is being able to open the thing up from the box and just get on with it and use it. Okay, yeah, it was, you know, it was poorly packaged and you know, just really not good. Okay, so yeah, that's basically my thoughts on the iPhone 6, really. Okay, now the watch. Now, before I saw the watch, I was rather skeptical. And I suppose I still am to an extent because, you know, why do people wear a watch? People wear a watch just because they want to know the time. Okay, they might, you know, if you're a runner or something like that, you might need a stopwatch or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I've got, you know, quite a nice watch, which I wear all the time. Okay, being a vegetarian, I don't have a I don't have a leather strap. I have a rubber one. Hopefully, that's animal free, but it's not quite as blatant as wearing a leather watch strap. I have to wear leather shoes because my feet smell in anything else. But you know, I don't really want to make a great big deal of wearing an animal on my body. So yeah, I just think, you know, how many places do I need to see my messages? I have an iPad, I have a phone, I have a Mac running the latest OS with notifications in it. How many places do I need to be bombarded with notifications? You know, thankfully, the Apple Watch seems a little bit more than that. I can actually send my heartbeat to somebody, although quite when or why I would do that, I don't know, and that would rely on somebody else wearing a watch as well. So it's all a bit sort of kind of, you know, up in the air, really. Having said that, they do look extremely cool. And having said that, you know, given that, you know, if money was never an object, I would probably have one. Okay, you do need to tether it to your iPhone, and it will work with an iPhone 5, 5C, 5S, and 6 and 6 Plus. But yeah, I don't really know if I want one. And you know, going back to this thing of battery life, okay, you can charge your watch up. I've got a house that is full of blinking chargers, from camera chargers to laptop chargers to iPad chargers, and you know, and really, you know, yes, they say, oh, this, you know, is very eco-friendly, and they put up all the eco-friendly codes and everything and uses little of this and none of that and whatever. But if you've got loads of things that all need charging because you're being encouraged to buy gadgets all the time, then surely the carbon footprint must be quite high. Okay. My watch is an eco-friendly watch. It's one of those ones where you go out in the sunshine or a little bit of daylight or whatever, and it charges itself up. Okay, it never loses time. It's you know, it's very accurate and very simple, and it's also water resistant, so I need never ever worry about, you know, it running out or getting wet. Okay, and you know, it's those kind of practical things that you need to think about when you're owning a watch. Okay, to have to take your watch off every night to charge it up. Now, I think Apple seems to be a little bit shaky about their battery life. You know, I either missed it or they didn't say, you know, how much battery life this watch would have. And David DeFranco, who used to be the creative one on YouTube, but now he's just David DeFranco, very renowned Apple fanboy that he is, said, if I can get 14 hours on a watch, I think that would be reasonable. Well, I don't think that's reasonable at all. Okay, and I think that for phones, for everything else, kind of thing, having to have just sorry, I'm having to put my password in again because my screensaver's come on. Having to charge everything up every day is just extremely poor, and they really need to be working on longer life batteries. With a watch, at the very least, you want it to last a few weeks before it needs charging up. Okay, because it's a watch, you know. And you need to rely on it all the time. You don't need to suddenly think, oh gosh, I've been wearing this watch for 2 days, oh shit, the time's run out. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, Apple and other manufacturers, because it's not Apple this time, it's all gadget manufacturers, please sort your battery life out. Okay. People have bemoaned the price, but they said $349. What's $349? About, I don't know, somewhere about sort of 200 quid, something like that. Well, 250, 260 quid, maybe. You can go into a jeweller's store and you can pay an awful lot more than that for an ordinary watch. Okay. You can also go to a marketplace and buy one for a fiver. But 30, 40 quid is probably ample to spend on a watch, really. But having said that, with everything that that this thing does, plus the fact that you can get some pretty nice designs, $349 or about 260, 270 quid, doesn't seem like too bad a price to pay for the latest gadgets. Now, while we're talking about the latest gadgets and things, just quickly mention Apple Pay. I've just been to the shop. The local supermarket's card machines seem absolutely rubbish. Every time I put my card in, it wants me to reinsert it, take it out, reinsert it, take it out, whatever, because the contact strip is a bit useless. The card itself is not that old, it's only a few months old, because I had the same problems with another card around about Christmas time, and so I reordered my card. And again, these things, they don't seem to be being made as robustly as they used to be being made. I actually think that there is a need for something like Apple Pay. Okay, now I'm aware that Google Wallet has also had has been around for a little while, but the thing is, no one's ever used it. Apple have the clout enough to be able to persuade banks, shops, and card machine manufacturers and all sorts of things to be able to introduce new technology that I think will actually be more fail-safe, provided that it can't be hacked. Okay. Now, somebody said on a website somewhere that the thumbprint sign-in thing, which I haven't used because I've only got an iPhone 5, but this thumbprint sign-in had been hacked within 48 hours by somebody wearing a latex thumb. Okay, now I don't think that many people wander around with latex thumbs, and I think shop assistants will have to be on the lookout for it. So provided that it can't be hacked, and that provided that people really do keep their promise not to be snooping around about what you're buying and when you're buying it and holding card details and things, provided that all is true, then yes, I'm very much in favour of Apple Pay. It's not available in the UK at the moment. I did a tiny bit of digging. Apparently it's coming next year at some point. They didn't say when, but next year we should start to see some Apple Pay outlets in the UK. I really do hope people go with this one. And kudos for Apple for actually taking the time to do it. And I think that like with the iPhone, for example, Apple were the first to have proper swipe gestures, a touch screen that you can touch with your hand, and they were innovative and they did it first. Okay, the first iPhone has, you know, a few shortcomings and things like that compared to, you know, other phones. But, you know, having said that, um, it was a real kind of breakthrough in technology, much easier to use than the average mobile phone that was around at that time. You know, much more interactive screens and everything. And yeah, it was fabulous, okay, and they were the first to introduce it, and kudos to them. Right, with you know, some of the things on the iPhone that people have said, oh, the Nexus 4's had this, and all that sort of thing. Well, hold on a minute. You know, there is a case for the fact that Apple have, you know, delayed their implementation of Apple Pay until they can get people to use it, which they seem to have done in the US at any rate, and you know, and their implementation of it, which I think is, you know, or sounds at any rate, because I haven't got an iPhone 6 yet and whatever, but it sounds pretty good, okay? And yeah, you know, it's not necessarily who does it first, but who does it the best, okay? And, you know, I think, you know, despite, you know, because people have said, oh, Apple's not as good since Steve Jobs died, but actually, you know, in many ways, it still is. Okay, it's not a perfect company by any means. Okay, they still try to monopolize things. But having said that, you know, in the case of things like app stores and stuff like that, okay, yeah, you know, you are locked into buying quite often from the app store or downloading, even if it's a freebie thing. But having said that, you are safer. Okay, there was some scam a few months ago with Google, who sold a virus shield app that turned out to be a complete duff and a fake and whatever, and they had to come out and apologise. And yeah, I'm just thinking, well, hold on, you know, A, with an Apple thing, you don't need a virus shield anyway, and B, you are safer buying things on the App Store because you know that they're legit. Whereas with other more open areas of things, you can get all sorts of things that are not legit. Okay, with Apple, you're fairly locked down. Even on the Mac, you're fairly locked down. Like the Safari browser, for instance. But having said that, the Safari browser is one hell of a lot more secure than Microsoft Internet Explorer. Okay, I'm not sure whether I've told people my experiences on trying to get my mate on the internet, but the second that I got him on the internet, a whole load of bots and goodness knows what else all jumped onto his computer, tried to take over his homepage and everything else like that. And yeah, you just don't get that experience with the Mac. And with, you know, phones and iPads and tablets and whatever else, you are safe from a lot of that. Okay, everything can be hacked, but you know, I think with Apple, you know, and with the Unix base that the OS is based on, and you know, whatever it is that iOS is based on, I think you're a lot safer than with other phones and things like that. So yeah, thoughts on the iPhone 6? In many ways, a huge leap forward. In many ways, a tad skeptical, but I've ordered one anyway. Watch, still a tad skeptical, especially with the battery life thing, but they look so cool, I quite want one. Okay, all right, see you later. Bye.